Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anir Chaudhary. I'm Policy Advisor of the A2I program, which is from ICT Division and Cabinet Division of the Government of Bangladesh, supported by UNDP. I'll be your host today and moderate the session. Today's session is Digital Inclusion for Persons with Disabilities to Achieve the Global Goals. This will be in English. The discussion will be in English, but we'll have text captions and Bangla Sign Language interpretation will also be provided. Distinguished guests, according to the World Health Organization, about 15% of the world's total population have some form of disabilities. In this age of information technology, various steps have been taken globally, and also we're seeing these steps in Bangladesh to ensure equal participation of all citizens, including persons with disabilities. The person with disabilities are addressed in the 4 goals of the UN SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, goals 4, 8, 10, and 11. And also the 5th goal, which is the 17 in terms of partnerships. The rights of the persons with disabilities are highly accommodated in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which is also known as UNCRPD. Bangladesh happens to be one of the first 20 countries to sign and ratify the UNCRPD. As per the Election Manifesto 2009 of the current government, to enact a right-based law for persons with disabilities, the government enacted the Rights and Protection of Persons with Disabilities Act in 2013 to ensure the rights and overall development of persons with disabilities, where the issue of inclusive digital services and accessibility of persons with disabilities and digital services are ensured. We also have developed a draft guideline, web and digital service designing guideline for ensuring inclusive accessibility just this year, in 2022. Today, our objective is to promote digital inclusion to ensure that no one is left behind, one of the tenets of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, in accessible digital services. To address this broad objective, we'll probe into the following 2 questions in today's event. The first question is, what should be the role of development partners, including the UN agencies, in supporting the government to promote digital inclusion to ensure that no one is left behind in accessing digital services? And the second question is, how can we bring national and international good practices on digital accessibility for ensuring digital inclusion? Today, our chief guest for this event is Mr. N.M. Ziaul Alam, PAA, Senior Secretary of the ICT Division. We have our special guest as Dr. Abu Saleh Mustafa Kamal, Director General of Department of Social Services. And today's chair is Dr. Dewan Mohammad Humayun Kabir, Project Director of A2I. We have 2 keynote speakers, Ms. Gunela Asbrink, Chair of Accessibility Standing Group, Internet Society, and Mr. Bhaskar Bhattacharjee from Bangladesh, National Consultant of A2I. And also G3IT Country Representative and Vice Chair of Accessibility Standing Group. We have 3 panelists, Sharan Ravindra, a researcher from Fiji National University, Mr. Asfar Adib, Senior Member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, and member of Internet Society Bangladesh chapter. We also have Mr. Mohammad Mozammel Haq, Program Analyst of UNDP Bangladesh. And our today's sign language interpretation will be done by Ms. Arafat Sultana Lota. Without further ado, let me actually ask our first keynote speaker, Ms. Gunela Asbrink, Chair of Accessibility Standing Group. She has extensive experience in policy and research into accessible ICT, with a strong understanding and involvement in general internet and telecommunications on public affairs, operational, legislative, and regulatory issues. She's interested in overall internet policy work. May I request Ms. Asbrink to deliver her keynote speech, please? And then we'll request our chief guest and our chair to deliver their speeches. But let's first hear the first keynote speech. Thank you. Ms. Aspring, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chowdhury, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, especially to our distinguished guests. We are delighted as the Internet Society Accessibility Standing Group to be presenting this webinar today in conjunction with Bangladesh government and a number of different stakeholders. So thank you very much for this opportunity. So I will now hopefully share my screen so that we can then look at my slides. If that doesn't work, then I will just speak to my slides. And I think that's probably what I'm going to do.
Gunilla, I think you are a co-host, so you should be able to share your slides.
Yes, I seem to have a little bit of an issue with that when I went in. So,
Bhaskar, is there anybody else who may have access to the slides so that they can bring it up?
I have sent the slides to Jolie, and he has the slides.
Jolie, would you be able to share the slides? Oh, you cannot do that. Okay.
Gunilla, I don't have your slide.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I'm not sure if it will. Okay. We'll see how we go. I think in the interest of time, rather than spending time on this, I would rather speak to you.
Sure.
And I think that's the most important thing, rather than spending time. So what I'm speaking to you about is an international perspective on digital inclusion for persons with disability. And we've already heard from Mr. Chowdhury that over 1 billion people with disabilities worldwide have a disability and functional restriction. And 80% of persons with disability live in developing countries. This is according to the World Health Organization. And again, according to those type of statistics, 15% of a country's population have a disability. Unfortunately, people with disabilities are marginalized in many countries. So there are many cultural, attitudinal, and economic barriers to active participation, which leads to limited educational opportunities, limited employment, and very unfortunately, women with disability are doubly disadvantaged. So we are talking about inclusive design. And this is also referred to as universal design. So what can we do to make a difference? Designers may think of persons with disability as different or the other, or persons with special needs. But we all have specific needs at different times of our lives, which we need to remember. Designing digital technologies to cater for a wider range of a population is essential for persons with disability and very helpful for everyone. For example, we've got captioning here. Captioning of conference calls, Zoom meetings, webinars is essential for persons with hearing loss, and it's also very helpful for people with English as a second language. We are also very pleased that we have sign language interpretation at this webinar to assist persons who are deaf to be able to participate in this webinar. So if we look at internet accessibility, it's really accessibility to technology and the internet for persons with disability that can break down barriers and open up opportunities. This is where this will make such a difference to a significant part of a population. We've already heard that Bangladesh was very early in signing and ratifying the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, and I congratulate Bangladesh for that. It has now been ratified by over 180 countries. There are a number of different obligations involved, including implementing measures to design, develop, produce, and distribute accessible ICT at an early stage. So these become accessible at minimum cost for people with disability, because otherwise the people can't afford. There's another barrier of affordability. So this particular obligation is part of the convention, and it's Article 9 on accessibility. But very importantly, not only is it a matter of signing and ratifying, but this needs to be followed by action. So it's developing policy, legislation, regulation, and then implementing that to make a real difference. So web accessibility, well, this underpins accessibility online service delivery. And many governments have adopted the W3C, as in the World Wide Web Foundation Consortium, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, called WCAG 2.1 AA. And that will soon be updated in the next few months. And one of the important things is that these guidelines now includes accessible apps. So this is an opportunity, for example, for the Bangladesh government and the private sector in Bangladesh and countries across the world to ensure that websites are accessible according to those guidelines. And to ensure that it is successful, if people with disabilities are involved in the design and testing, that means that we are very much more likely to have accessible websites and apps. So it's that involvement by persons with disability that makes a big difference. I also wanted to touch on accessibility in public procurement. This is quite powerful. This means the way government purchases, and in particular ICT in this particular case. In the US, there are Section 508 guidelines, and in Europe and in Australia, there are standards. Australia's, for example, adopted the European standard, which is called EN 301549 on ICT accessibility criteria in government purchasing, i.e. public procurement. And why is this important? Well, governments are one of the largest purchasers of ICT in any country, really, and therefore can influence the marketplace to produce more accessible technology. Also, there is the European Accessibility Act and a new Web Accessibility Directive. And I mention this because with the European Accessibility Act, for example, this requires European national legislation to be made in various European countries by last year and to be applied by 2025. Now, why would that be of interest in Bangladesh? Well, it's obviously setting a good example, But if there are companies in Bangladesh, for example, who wish to sell their software products to a European country in the Eurozone, then that particular Accessibility Act comes into force in 2025. So really, it's a matter of planning now to ensure that products, software or services are accessible. So I've touched on this already a little bit, but I wanted to mention the motto of the disability movement. This is nothing about us without us. So persons with disability have a lived experience of online barriers and can also then, through that lived experience, help to reduce barriers through various governance structures to be part of the solution. So it's not a matter of an agency saying, we will fix this, we will do it for persons with disability. It's a matter of doing it with persons with disability. And this is where communication and engagement by and with persons with disability are key factors in that decision making. So I must mention Vashkar Bhattacharjee here, who we heard is vice chair of the ISOC Accessibility Standing Group, and also has a key role to play in the Bangladesh government to make a difference and to inform and engage with government processes. And I also wanted to mention that this year there was a partnership between the Asia Pacific School of Internet Governance, APSIG, and the Internet Society Accessibility Standing Group. And this is about disability leadership training. We need more people. We need more people like Bhaskar. We need more people with a variety of disabilities who can then present their lived experience. And we have helped to make that happen. And there's much, much more work to be done to strengthen the disability voice. So there was a pilot workshop in Dhaka in June this year, bringing in people with disability from various South Asian countries to have capacity building and more or less a train the trainer process. This resulted in the Dhaka Declaration, which is advocating various commitments to making a difference, to increasing accessibility. And I've put a link in there to that, which is apsig.asia/CB-4FOR-PWDS. And all going well with funding, we hope to have an online course operational next year. And also, depending on funding, we wish to have more workshops in the region. I should state that the pilot workshop in Dhaka was also, we had great support from the Bangladesh Internet Society chapter, and also very welcome support from Article 19 to make it happen. So I've mentioned a number of things that can be done through the international perspective. I've mentioned about web accessibility content guidelines, which includes a wide range of different criteria. And that also includes things like good contrast, readability, and that's something we need to consider not only with text and images, but it could be logos on webinars, for example, a range of different things. So I also wanted to finish by saying it's very exciting that the Bangladesh government have only in the last few months agreed to adopt the Marrakesh Treaty. And so we look forward to further implementation based on that. And I wish to finish off by saying thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing progress from Bangladesh as to how we move forwards together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Asbrink, for that wonderful presentation, even though you were limited by not having the slides in front of us, but I think you delivered very important messages. I take away three important things, very, very important things. Now, you've covered a lot, but I think the first thing that I take away is not just policy and guidelines, but implementation of those. I mean, we may be developing them, ratifying them, Marrakesh Treaty, and then on the UN Charter, but we need to implement that. And I think in Bangladesh, we are doing a decent job, and we'll discuss that further. We've made our national portal accessible. We're making sure from A2I ICT division that all the web services and apps are accessible. So we're making that influence. The second important thing that you pointed out is the partnerships that we need to have, public, private, and academic partnership. I think that's also in progress. Again, I think more can be done. And the third important thing is the co-creation with persons with disabilities, so that their lived experiences are incorporated in the design and the accessibility measures that we take. So we take those 3 points very seriously. Before I go into the second keynote speech, I think our chief guest and our chair, they have to leave for an urgent meeting. So I would like to take this opportunity to actually request our chief guest, Mr. N.M. Ziaul Alam, PA, Senior Secretary, ICT Division, asking him to deliver his kind speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil bhai, for giving me the chance in the first up. And I would also like to thank you for your nice moderation and nice introduction in this session. And also I thank Ms. Gunela for her very informative and insightful presentation. Respected chair of this webinar, Mr. Dr. Dewan Mohammad Humayun, Project Director of A2I, respected special guest, Mr. Saleh, Director General of the Department of Social Service of Bangladesh. All distinguished guests, good morning and good afternoon as you place presence. At the outset, I would like to remember with deep respect and honor the father of the nation, the greatest Bengali of all time, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who had foresight for making the newly independent country a great nation by giving great importance in education and in the advancement of science and technology for the younger generation, including persons with disability. Over the last decades, we have reached many of our goals and milestones. We have able to transfer the country to a digitally driven nation that is exemplary to the world, keeping in mind no one left behind under the very able leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the proper guidance of our Honorable ICT Advisor, Mr. Shazib Wajad, the architect of Digital Bangladesh. As we have come to know, about 15% of the world's population, total population has some form of disabilities. In this age of information technology, various steps have been taken internationally to ensure equal participation of all citizens, including persons with disabilities, in digital service. Persons with disabilities are addressed in, as Anibhai told earlier, 4 goals of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Also, the right of persons with disabilities are highly appreciated in the UNCRPD, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Bangladesh is among the first 20 countries of the world to sign and ratify the UNCRPD. As per the commitment of the current government in the election manifesto of 2008 to enact a right-based law for persons with disability, in 2013, the government enacted the Rights and Protection of Persons with Disabilities Act 2013 to ensure the rights and overall development of persons with disabilities, where the issues of inclusive digital service and accessibility of persons with disabilities in digital service are ensured. That already have been introduced by our moderator. We also, it is already discussed that we also drafted one guideline for designing and ensuring digital service. This is actually in draft form. Now we are going to finalize it. Meanwhile, the Department of Social Service has identified and registered more than 30 lakhs persons with disabilities in their digital system. The current government has taken various initiatives to involve this large population in digital service. We have the largest government website and about 2,000 citizens service in the various government office and field levels in Bangladesh are now automated. In addition, various private sectors, including job portals, e-commerce, news portals, online and mobile banking service, have gained immense popularity, and their usage is steadily increasing. In order to make this government and private website, mobile apps, and digital service accessible to all types of disabled people, activities have started from Aspire to Innovate Gateway program, and we are now working on it. And some of our platform already we have provide accessibility, ensuring accessibility. And by this time, we ensured 70% of the accessibility in our digital platforms for the disabled persons. Now the textbooks is also made in the form of multimedia talking books format, which a sustainable, suitable for all the students, including the visually impaired persons. Currently, people with disabilities receive accessible book at the beginning of their academic year, just like other normal students. During the COVID-19 situation, multimedia talking books is very useful for all students. Very recently, I visited BERDU, Blind Education and Rehabilitation Development Organization of Bangladesh. They are now very busy with printing all the academic books of the government using their own braille printer. A reliable and acceptable online dictionary created in collaboration with Bangla Academy. As a result, all students, including the visually impaired and other students, also have the opportunity to use it. Here, three types of accessible dictionaries are being launched, and one is Bangla to English, English to Bangla, and again, Bangla to Bangla. ETOI has been working to make digital financial service accessible. Initially, 4 banks are working with ETOI for ensuring the accessibility for the disabled person in the bank and in the financial aid sectors. In the last opening ceremony of Digital Bangladesh Day in 22nd December, Honorable Prime Minister declared Smart Bangladesh by 2041 with smart citizen, smart government, smart economy, and smart society by using upcoming technology. As we believe that only information technology can make disabled people equal to normal people. So we can easily include the disabled person as a vital part of our citizen, as a vital member of Smart Bangladesh citizen. At last, I'd like to say it is our duty to make our Bangladesh a Sonar Bangla, a happy prosperous golden Bengal, a self-sufficient Bangladesh, so that in 2041 we can become the desired developed nation and a knowledge-based, innovative, and inclusive society, and a smart Bangladesh. With this view, I'd like to conclude and thank you all. Joy Bangla.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alam, with your inspiring words and the achievements that we have in Bangladesh and the future plans. So that's very encouraging. I'd like to add that from A2I, we took an initiative recently to develop a report, a digital divide report called Equality through E-Quality. So essentially what we're saying is that by ensuring that digital quality is ensured for everyone, we can actually ensure equality in society. For instance, ICT can actually create digital provides instead of digital divide if applied to everybody, leaving no one behind. May I now ask our chair of today's session, Dr. Dayan Mohammad Humayun Kabir, A2I project
With your
director.
permission, can I leave, Anibhai?
Sure, please. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presence.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
Anibhai. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Humayun Kabir, please.
Okay. Am I audible, Anibhai?
শোনা যাচ্ছে? Yes, please go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, good evening, or good day based on your current time zone. It's really very honor for me as well as A2I ICT divisions to be a part of very important issues, not in Bangladesh, but it's a global issues. Thank you everyone for connecting us. Honorable Chief Guest, just we have spoken a few minutes back. NM Ziaul Alam, PA, Senior Secretary, Information and Communication Technology Division, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Then respected special guest, Dr. Abu Saleh Mustafa Kamal, Director General, Department of Social Services. This department deals with the disability issues, their welfare and everything. Then we have today's panel discussion as Sharan Ravindra, academic at Fiji National University, and Azfar Adib, senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, member of the Internet Society Bangladesh chapter, and Mozammel Haq, program analyst, UNDP Bangladesh, Mr. Bhaskar Bhattacharya, national consultant, accessibility at A2I, country representative G3 ICT, and vice chair of ISOC, accessibility standing group. And the first, we have here from the first keynote speaker, Gunela Astrivik, chair of the accessibility standing group, Internet Society, moderator Ani Chaudhuri, policy advisor A2I, and everyone connected here. Thank you so much. December is the month of victory for Bangladesh. As well, it is the 50 years of adopting our constitutions. So in our constitutions, in the preamble, it has been mentioned very clearly that we are placing that it shall be a fundamental aim of the state to realize through the democratic process of socialist society, free from exploitation, a society in which the rule of law, fundamental human rights, freedom, equality, and justice, political and economic and social, will be secured for all citizens. No discrimination. That's been the state commitment placed to the citizen and the global people. So many steps have been taken, both nationally and internationally. That's been mentioned by our keynote speaker, our chief guest, and also our moderator. I'll not repeat. So we have a very strong commitment to implement the SDG Goal 4, 8, SDG 10, SDG 11, SDG 17. That's been related to the disability issues and accessibility issues. So it's a very strong commitment. And also we are first 20 countries, as has been mentioned, that the Convention on the Right of the Person with Disability, we have a strong commitment to implement this very, very strongly. So many policy adoption, political commitment is good in our countries, no doubt. That's been mentioned. So as our moderator Ani Chaudhary has been mentioning, that the more key issue is the better is implementation, partnership and commitment, and co-creation with the global compliance. So we'll work on that. I can finish my speech quoting from His Excellency Kofi Annan, the ex-Secretary General of United Nations. That's been said. More than ever before in human history, we have a common destiny. We can master it only if we can face it together. We want to face it together. Thank you everyone again. Jai Bangla.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kabir. I think you've highlighted some of the very important steps that we're taking in Bangladesh. And also the quote from the past Secretary General was very inspiring as well. So thank you for your presence. I know that you may have to run for another meeting, so feel free to do that. We'll continue with the rest of our program.
I'm really sorry because Secretary is waiting for me for a very important sessions.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Let me go back to the second keynote from our very own Mr. Bhaskar Bhattacharya, National Consultant of Accessibility in A2I, and also country representative of G3 ICT and Vice Chair of ISOC Accessibility Standing Group. As we all know, Bhaskar is interested in ICTs for development, but deeply passionate about e-accessibility and information accessibility for persons with disabilities. He is visually impaired, but refuses to let this be a restriction in his life and his achievements. As we will know that he leverages ICT to actually perform amazing tasks in his daily life and also guide us at a national and international level towards rights of persons with disability and inclusion in digital lifestyle for persons with disability. Bhaskar, over to you.
Thank you, moderator. I think I am also facing the same difficulties for sharing my screen. So, however, I would like to go with my own voice. I believe it is clear and loud enough to understand. Okay.
Select the window or a tab. Sharing options list box. Use arrow. Share sound checkbox space. Select sharing to optimize for button. Share screen button.
See my screen.
PowerPoint slide context. 33 cable.
Your screen has come, so you're more successful.
So thank you very much.
Great, wonderful.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guest, panelist, and speaker, we are very honored.
Participants can now see your screen alert.
Host this webinar, and I am very honored to part of it as a one of the speaker for today's session. You know that the Bangladesh has began its journey in 2009 as a digital Bangladesh, and since then A2I has been working to promote digital inclusion and accessibility for people with disabilities in Bangladesh. We are working through different mechanism by engaging people with disabilities.
Razan Ak has left the meeting alert.
All of our
slide.
Almost all of our services, including webs,
Manik Mohammed has left the
now in
slideshow.
all the
Manik Mohammed has joined the meeting alert. Speech mode off.
All the ministries, all the departments, and even in the local government, districts, sub-districts, all are based on our part of our national portal. We have different service mechanism for making information accessible for people with disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangladesh government have the three commitment to ensure digital accessibility and inclusion for people with disabilities. One is a legal commitment. Two, the political commitment. Three is a global commitment. I'd like to come with the political commitment. Bangladesh government, current government, they are committed to their manifesto. Before the last three election, they have included disability issues in their manifesto. And now we are seeing inclusion and rights of persons with disabilities is the key agenda of the political agenda of the current government. Secondly, there is a legal commitment. I think all of our guests already talked about that. The Bangladesh already adopted the Persons with Disability Rights and Protection Act 2013. And through that, there is a separate section on digital accessibility. And if we could implement that, then there will be no discrimination for people with disabilities. So this is the legal commitment of the Bangladesh government. Third is the global commitment. Again, we know Bangladesh ratified the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and there is Article 9 has talked about accessibility. Article 21 talked about the right to information. And Bangladesh government are highly committed to achieve all the rights has described in the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities. As you know, we need to report back to the UN, and we're just very much committed for that. And also, Bangladesh would like to achieve SDG by 2030, and inclusion is another priority area. And the main motto of the SDG is no one left behind. For achieving all of these three commitments, Aspire to Innovate, A2I program are working, and we are promoting few of the issues like accessibility. We are now developed National Web Accessibility Guideline that is drafted, and we are regularly running accessibility audits by engaging people with disabilities. What we say, nothing about us without us. Our digital accessibility auditors came from different types of disabilities. They are serving with us as expert. And also we are just providing technical support to different non-government organizations for making their website accessible. We have developed the accessibility plugin by which people with disabilities get the better experience of using web and e-service. I'm not sure I'm going with my slide properly or not, but I'm trying to do that.
Bhaskar, we are seeing inclusive education right now.
Yeah,
so I think you're good.
We have a very successful initiative to promote the inclusive education in Bangladesh. Especially, we are working to promote inclusive university. And we have piloted an initiative in the University of Chittagong, and almost 150 students with disabilities are studying there. We have established accessible e-learning center, developed some accessible reading materials, and train the youth with disabilities in technology. Also, one of our biggest innovation is the multimedia talking book and accessible reading materials. As you know, the multimedia talking book is inclusive and accessible for all, not only people with disabilities. People can listen, people can see, and easily convert it into Braille and large print. Another inclusive initiative for inclusive education is accessible dictionary, and that is designed for people with disability, but everyone is using. Almost 6 million people has accessed that dictionary till to date. And we are just promoting the inclusive financial service, including banking accessibility. Currently, we are working with the central bank, that is Bangladesh Bank, to and identify 4 banks to make their service inclusive and accessible. And again, people with disabilities are engaged here, and they are just working with us as an expert. And we are working with the bank for making their service accessible, not only for digital accessibility, also we are working to change their policy to remove all the barriers for getting any service by the people with disabilities. For creating decent employment, we have several activities, including skill development program. We are organizing trade fair, job fair. We are just promoting the entrepreneurship for people with disabilities in Bangladesh. We are bringing the entrepreneur with disabilities in the e-commerce. And we have one of the largest e-commerce platform is called xshop.gov.bd. Even though the platform is not fully accessible, but entrepreneur with disabilities already enroll here, and they are getting, they are selling their product. Few different types of disabilities also can procure products and service from the xshop platform. We are now trying to make it accessible for people with disabilities. You are seeing some of the accessibility work of our products, such as a national portal, MyGov, NICE portal, 333 is the national helpline. Now it is accessible for different types of people with disabilities, but except people with hearing and speech disabilities, by May, we would like to ensure that this national helpline will be inclusive for all. So I would like to conclude my speech by thanking Internet Society Accessibility Standing Group, Internet Society Bangladesh chapter, and also A2I and ICT division, all the guests, and our parent ministry for people with disabilities, that is Ministry of Social Welfare, our Directorate of Social Welfare, Social Service Department. Our Director General is here, and he is always guiding us for making the service inclusive and accessible. Thank you very much. I can say Digital Bangladesh is now we are making it inclusive, but a smart Bangladesh, we are our vision 2041. There will be no discrimination for people with disabilities. We are working hard to achieving that goal. Thank you.
Mr. Bhattacharya, thank you very much for your outstanding presentation. Just to note, the two initiatives that you mentioned, the Act Shop, which is the e-commerce portal, and the NICE 3, which is the National Intelligence for Skills, Education, Entrepreneurship, and Employment. So these are also being replicated in several countries like Turkey, Jordan, Yemen, and Somalia. So those countries will get the benefit of making these platforms inclusive and accessible to persons with disabilities. So we're also turning all of our other platforms into accessible platforms. So thank you again for that great presentation. Let me go into the panel discussion very quickly. Our first panelist is Mr. Saran Ravindra, who's a member of the Asia Pacific Regional Internet Governance Forum 2022, a multi-stakeholder group. He's also a member of the Internet Society's Accessibility Standing Group, an academic at Fiji National University, and most importantly, a proud mentor to some of the incredibly brilliant disability fellows. Sarna Ravindra, please. Ms. Saran Ravindra, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chaudhry. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much to all the panelists. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us, including our esteemed guests, my fellow colleagues at the Accessibility Standing Group. My name is Swaran. I am one of the academic team members of Fiji National University, and I have a few things to discuss today, but I must say there's some amazing work that Bhaskar and his colleagues have done in Bangladesh, and we've been hearing some great stuff happening all over the world, right? And it's good to know that there's some good benchmarking happening as well. Now, I will not talk only about Fiji National University today, because Fiji National University is one of those few dual sector universities in the world. That means we have vocational training as well. And I happen to be part of National Training and Productivity Center of Fiji National University, which is basically the organization that belongs to the international APO member countries. So we're one of the 11 member countries in the world. And Fiji is the only Pacific Island representative in APO. So over the past 5 years, we have successfully trained more than 100 persons with disabilities. Now, I will tell you how my journey started off in training for persons with disabilities. Now, I am not somebody who has, I'm not a living example of a person with disability. So it was quite challenging for me because I really wanted to help. I really wanted to enable the rights that we are actually talking about, the policies. We have lots of policies, and we're not going to focus too much on the policies today. I just wanted to tell you where the gap exists. So earlier on, Ganela and I had co-hosted a session at the Asia Pacific Internet Governance Forum in Singapore. And that's where we had spoken about the actual gap and how important it is to measure the parity of disability. So that being said, if you look at just this basic statistic, sorry, if I could just ask, how much time do I have so I could decide if I can show you a presentation?
How much time do you need?
I won't be long.
We actually have, in total time, we don't have a lot of time, but can you do that in 3 minutes?
Yeah, let's see.
Sure. Great.
So if you could just very quickly enable screen sharing. Awesome.
Yeah, we can see the slides.
Okay, thanks, Jolly. You're
quite
awesome.
a few. If you could go through them very quickly, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. So these are the current services that the Disability Center at Fiji National University provides. So we start off by asking for declaration, and this is where the biggest barrier is. Many people still do not want to declare disability. Many people still do not, they're completely oblivious to the idea that we do have persons with disabilities. Now, we do have 13.7% population living with disability. That is as per the last census report in Fiji. And in the Pacific Island, that goes just a little more than 1.2 million people. So we still have this barrier. However, I have seen that there are two groups of persons with disabilities, two particular groups that are very vocal on their rights. And those are the ones who have a visual impairment and those who are deaf and hard of hearing. So we see a lot of intervention at this level. Now, the reason why there's not much that the universities at the moment can do is because these are the only ones who have actually made it to the MQR, the minimum qualification requirement that is required for them to be part of a university or get university studies, which is why we have tried to train them vocationally. So that number 100 that I'm telling you is actually a majority of that is from National Training and Productivity Center, where we have trained our participants who have disabilities, many different types of disabilities, but there are lots of gaps that still exist. So there's some very pressing challenges that we have. We also have a policy that states that 2% of the workforce should be reserved for persons with disabilities, but that doesn't really happen in many places. And when
Ms. Ravindra, if I may request you to finish in about a minute or so, that'd be great.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So when I presented these results, I was told that Swaran, it's not that we don't want to include, we just don't know how to. So the intervention of assistive technology is really something that is important, and that is my area of work. Since I don't have much time, I won't be able to talk much about the work that I have been doing, but I'm happy to address any questions. Thank you. That's it from me.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Ravindra. We'll have a very short time for Q&A, but maybe after the two other panelists finish their deliberations, we can go into the Q&A very quickly. Our next panelist is Mr. Asfar Adib, who's an ICT analyst and activist and senior member of IEEE, and currently a PhD researcher at Concordia University in Canada. Mr. Adib, let's talk about AI, artificial intelligence, in our future. It's helpful for image recognition, best route finding, and so many other ways, but would you like to enlighten our audience how persons with disabilities can benefit from the usage of AI?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Mr. Anir. It's an honor and privilege for me to be here and to learn from all. It's just amazing to see the endeavors being done in Bangladesh to help disabled people. So when we talk about using technology like AI to help the disabled people, so the very first thing is, I am also a member of I'm a senior member in IEEE, which is the world's largest technical organization. So we always prefer to use the term especially able, because yes, people can be disabled because of accident or maybe because maybe by since birth. But what we call is that they do have some special ability, and how we can bring the best out of them. So I can share some examples. I actually live in Montreal. Right now I'm in Dhaka, but I'm doing my PhD in Concordia University in Montreal. So the way it works is that whenever we are actually designing any new curriculum, any educational material, or any particular service, then EDI is a must consideration. So we all know about EDI, equity, diversity, inclusion. So we really need to always make sure that EDI is included in our designs. So when it comes to technology, and when we want to make sure that all our services are accessible to disabled people, then obviously we need to use certain mechanism. For instance, if I become very specific, when we have an entry system in our campus or in premises, so usually it is ID card based. But for any especially able people who may not be used by the ID card, or maybe it's difficult for them, what are the alternatives? So that's where we are promoting biometrics. So the concept is that we need to have multiple options. We need to have EDI for all kinds of services. It's challenging, there are different aspects, but we need to try our best. And it's just, again, amazing to see that under the visions of Digital Bangladesh and Smart Bangladesh, there are so many notions and so many policies. So maybe once we build the right capability, we can try to enforce those. Enforcing may be the last thing to do once we have the right capability. But once we have that capability in terms of both technology and also in terms of mindset is also important. I guess we do really need to have those policies. And I would just like to highlight one more point. It's about the life cycle of the disabled, especially able people. So as our honorable chief guest was sharing, also Mr. Paski was sharing, there has been so many impactful work in the education sector for the disabled people. So still, we assume that we can help more people. Like I was just checking the latest stats, which BPS published back in last June. So currently in Bangladesh, the dropout rate for disabled people is still over 40%. However, for normal children, it is 14%. So it's 14 for normal children, but around 40% for dropout for the disabled children. So there actually maybe we can try to help further. We can see some synergy. Like if we think back in the early 90s, we had the same challenge with our female kids, like the young girls. The girls' dropout rate was so high. But now we see more girls appearing in SCC exam than the boys. So Bangladesh has almost quite revolution in that regard. And how did that happen? Things like special scholarship for girls, young kids were going to below class 5 or maybe up to class 8. And a big credit goes to our Honorable Prime Minister, who has been a global champion for women education. So I was wondering, can we think something like this for disabled children as well? Because in current Bangladesh context, disability is always considered as a stigma. When a child is born with limited ability, in many parts of Bangladesh, their parents think it as a curse for them. So can we think it the other way around, so some special help, like maybe offering some particular devices for disabled kids so that they can have the inclusive education? So this will be just as a complementary to all the great things that it is doing to have disabled kids, but maybe starting for the very basic primary level. Another example can be, we always see things like Para-Olympics, like special sports event for disabled kids. And right now, our young people are doing amazing performance.
Mr. Adib, if you could finish in a minute or so, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Exactly. So can we have something like this, like digital contest for special able children or kids? So the thing is that we need to use the right technology. AI can help a lot. At the same time, we need to make sure that we have that right motion, right mindset. And I would just finish with the one line, what we actually all know, that universal digital inclusion. It should be beyond connectivity, affordability, and capability. So again, it's amazing to see all these great endeavors being done in Bangladesh, and we are always happy to be a part of that. And maybe what we are now calling disabled, we can make them especially able with the right empowerment. Digital services can do a lot of help in that regard. So with that note, I would like to again thank Mr. Bhaskar, Mr. Rani, ISOC, and ATU, and all the organizers for this wonderful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adib. So specially abled, I don't think, I think we should really go towards that kind of an empowered thinking for us as well. And we should rewire our DNA to thinking about specially able, not just persons with disability, and have the kind of enablement that you talk about in terms of sports, in terms of devices. And I hope and really hope that our special guest, our DG of DSS, would actually maybe touch on some of these. Let me invite our third and last panelist, Mr. Mohammad Muzammil Haq, Program Analyst, UNDP Bangladesh. Mr. Haq, as you know, there are many commitments to the UN, such as the SDGs, UN CRPD, and several others, Marrakesh Treaty perhaps. Would you guide us on how UN Bangladesh, so not just UNDP, but the whole UN system in Bangladesh, support the government to promote digital inclusion to ensure that no one is left behind in accessing digital services, with a particular focus on persons with special needs, so special abilities? Thank you.
Thank you, Anil bhai. It is my pleasure to be with the distinguished guest and panelist. And I heard, the keynote speakers, how they are talking about the inclusive agenda and inclusion in Bangladesh, particularly when Bhaskar was talking, referring the, three major commitment from the government: the political, legal, and also the global commitment from the UN CRPD. If I refer to the UN CRPD, it's a UN document. It is the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So when we see this is the UN Convention, it is the responsibility and the obligation of the UN system in terms of, creating opportunities in the host country, working together with the government in partnership and collaboration to support the, ensuring the inclusion. So if we are talking about the inclusion and, accessibility, and also referring the right to information, another thing I want to mention here regarding the reasonable accommodation, which is one of the major, issues described. in the UN CRPD. So if we want to, ensure the reasonable accommodation, that really, help us to, create a good design thinking, which can enable accessibility for all. But if I look at the UN program, not only the UNDP as you are mentioning, I personally feel there are 3 ways we can support the host country government from the UN system. As UN is working closely in partnership with the government, we can work with the government in terms of supporting the government with the right policy design, right programmatic intervention, where we are supporting the government with different programs and projects. So in such a situation, we can really help the government in terms of better targeting, better designing, and also we can support the government. Anirba has rightly mentioned that we are not only importing the knowledge from overseas in our country, rather we are also participating and also disseminating the knowledge that we created here for the global level, so that we are in a situation in the UN system, in UNDP or any other UN agency has the opportunity to to maneuver this sort of process, bringing global knowledge in country, at the same time, supporting and facilitating the local knowledge to the international level. That we can also help in terms of promoting the inclusion agenda. So another thing is regarding the implementation. When we talk about the policies and the commitment, we have legal commitment, we have policies, but what are the implementation? If you look at the inclusion of persons with disability, if you see, look at the primary enrollment education. So if you look at this, 97% of the primary education enrollment in our country, but if you see it is for the disabled person or the children with disability, you will see only 11% is there. Also the dropout rate is high. So in such a situation, why children with disability are not enrolling, why their dropout rate is high? Because the education system is not inclusive. Although we have an inclusive education policy and we are trying, so we need to implement. Is the policies and laws are the reflection of the commitment of the government, but if it is not implemented properly, if we cannot guide how on the ground in terms of implementation, it would be at the end only on paper. But realizing the policy and translating the policy into action, we need to work together with the local governments, local departments of the different ministries who are working on the ground to implement the policy. So that way, we from the UN system we can help. If you look at the ILO's work in the decent work. Promoting decent work, they are working with the employers and also the workers association. So if you look at UNV, they are also supporting the disabled persons with disability as a volunteer, providing volunteer services to others. So that way, UN system has different UN has different mandate. UNICEF is doing, but I must say there is a coordination mechanism in the UN system. UN Resident Coordinator Office is coordinating the functions, coordinating in the UN city level, the coordination team level, how UN agencies are actually addressing the disability in their programming, in the policy support, and on targeting. So in such a situation, at the UN level, we can have a mapping of our own work and also reflect how better what actually the challenges the
Mr. Hawk, may I request you to finish in 1 minute, please? Thank you.
Definitely. The UN system, we can map how our work is actually supporting inclusion agenda, whether we are really targeting the persons with disability, whether our board in different program and projects when we organizing, whether there is a participation of persons with disability or not. That way we can really help in terms of bringing persons with disabilities, their experiences in our work, and shaping our work, programming nature, and to make it more inclusive. In such a situation, the UN system, the UNDP can work. UNDP as UNDP is as an agency of as an integrator of the SDGs. We can also help other agencies to come together for better inclusion. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. I think many of the things that you talked about, some of the important ones that I take away, one would be global best practices sharing. Second would be helping the government design for inclusion, so design for persons with disabilities from the very get-go. And then also perhaps something like a disability audit for services that we're also deploying. So I think those are areas that the UN system could certainly help. We are running. Jolly, yes. Okay.
I need to leave in 5 minutes.
Sure.
Mr.
What I will do in the interest of time, I think we're already over time by 13 minutes. Okay. So we're supposed to do a little bit of a Q&A. I will, in the interest of time, maybe we'll take 2 questions if they come up. If anybody wants to raise their hand, I'll see who's raising their hand and I will go to that person before we end with our Honorable DG, our special guest. Anybody wants to ask a question or offer a suggestion? I don't see any hands. Any of the panelists or the 2 keynote speakers, they want to share any last thought? You can start speaking if you want. Okay, I think all questions have probably been answered automatically by the great speakers and the panelists. So
Anibhai, just only an information, some
Sure.
of the people may face difficulties to join today's webinar because of the registration process. So
Sure.
we are apologizing to them that maybe they can watch this webinar through our websites. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's great. Thank you for that, Mr. Bhattacharya.
May I leave now?
Muzamil Bhai, you want to leave? Sure, please go ahead. I will actually end with the last speaker, our special guest, Dr. Abu Saleh Mustafa Kamal, DG of Department of Social Services, the organization that actually. I think that'll be wonderful if you could stay for a few more minutes. I think we'll be ending very soon. So Department of Social Services is the organization that leads and facilitates really as a guardian of persons with disabilities. And now we are talking about special abilities in Bangladesh. Honorable DG, Dr. Abu Saleh Mustafa Kamal, please.
Thank you very much. Respected Chair, Honorable Chief Guests, though they are already been left, distinguished keynote speakers and panelists, moderators, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, considering local time. At first, I would like to thank the organizer for organizing such a time-worthy international webinar on digital inclusion for persons with disabilities to achieve the global goals. As you know, persons with disabilities are addressed in the 4 goals, namely the SDGs 4, 8, 10, 11, and 17. And we will be happy to know that also the rights of the persons with disabilities are highly appreciated in the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities. If we see that global context, about 15% of the world's total population has some form of disabilities. In this age of information technology, various steps have been taken internationally to ensure equal participation of all citizens, including persons with disabilities, in digital services. If we consider the national context, as you know, Bangladesh is among the first 20 countries in the world to sign and ratify the UN CRPD. And our government by this time enacted the Rights and Protection of Persons with Disabilities Act 2013 to ensure the rights and overall development of the persons with disabilities, where the issue of the inclusive digital services and accessibility of the persons with disabilities in digital services are ensured. There has been drafted a guideline named Web and Digital Services Designing Guideline for ensuring inclusive accessibility 2022. Not only that, Bangladesh government has already been taken some initiative in this regard. Mainly the Department of Social Service has identified and registered more than 30 lakh persons with disabilities in their DIS system, as our chief guest already mentioned it. The government has taken various initiatives to involve this large population in digital activities. Currently, there are more 33,000 government websites and more than 1,000 digital citizen services in the various government office and field level in Bangladesh. In addition, various private services, including job portal, e-commerce, news portal, online and mobile banking services have gained immense popularity, and their use is steadily increasing. In order to make this government and private website, mobile apps, and digital services accessible to all types of disabled people, activities have started from the Aspire to the Innovate A2I program. Meanwhile, all websites developed by the A2I have ensured an average of 70% accessibility, but not in cases of 100%. Including multimedia talking books and accessible dictionary, inclusive university initiative, where there are some equipments and modern technologies, and including e-library also. These are the initiatives taken, as you know. And finally, A2I has been working to make digital financial service accessible. Initially, for banks has been chosen for the accessibility assessment such as Islami Bank, Standard Bank, and Sonali Bank. So these are a few words from DSS. With these few words, I would like to conclude here. Joy Bangla. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable DG. You've always guided us and will continue to guide us in future to ensure that persons with disabilities or special abilities have complete inclusion. And as we build, as Bhaskar Bhattacharya talked about, as we plan and build the smart Bangladesh of 2041, it's quite some time away, but really the building process starts now. We've already started building from digital Bangladesh towards smart Bangladesh. I take away 4 important things from this wonderful discussions. I have to thank all the panelists, the 3 panelists, the 2 keynote speakers, our chief guest, our special guest and chair, and also all the organizers who put this program together. But the 4 takeaways that I have, one in terms of philosophy. So instead of persons with disabilities, I think we should really start talking about persons with special abilities and identify that the special abilities should drive our design. The second important thing that I take away is the knowledge and technology sharing from across the world. I think brilliant work we heard from Fiji, brilliant work is going on. We heard from UN, brilliant work is going on in different parts of the world, and those can be incorporated instead of reinventing the wheel. The third is we need to mandate design for inclusion from the very get-go instead of making inclusion an afterthought. So here, I think all the program design, I talked about perhaps the disability design, disability audit. So these will actually help with the execution, not just ratifying and planning policies and guidelines, but implementing those guidelines. And the fourth and the last point I take away is potentially we could look at innovation fund and challenge competition, something that we do at A2I on a regular basis, and other organizations within ICT division and within the government of Bangladesh have started doing this recently. So challenge competitions and innovation fund for inclusive design for digital services. I think those could also help us move us closer to the goal of smart Bangladesh for everyone, not just smart Bangladesh for the normally able people, but smart Bangladesh for the specially able people as well. So thanks again for today's program. I'm very privileged to moderate today's discussion. Thanks all the guests, panelists, speakers, and the audience for your kind presence and your patience for the extended time. Jolly, over to you. Sure, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's been a very informative session. We have learned a lot, we've shared a lot, and I think that is always important. We can always learn from each other in whatever way it is. So we've heard about implementation, the importance of that, and I just put in the chat, I think that it's again talking to people with disability, the disability community, about what we want as a disability community when it comes to terminology, when it comes to how we design accessible ICT. So it's a big thank you to everyone, and especially people with disability who we are all working for to make it more accessible. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you. Thanks, Jolly, for your facilitation and making sure that we're all heard all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much all for joining today, and we are really grateful. Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary, for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It's been a privilege.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.